everyone, I'm DanDan, and seems like you caught me red-handed. It's not blood from the disgusting premarital sex-having and possibly teenagers that's just horrifically slaughtered. It's a medical condition. Speaking of horrifically slaughtering, drug-using, and unprotected sex-having teenagers, I really love watching movies where a terrifying killer does that. Why don't we pop in some classic films? Wow! This sucks! Friday the 13th, a horror slasher series originally directed and produced by Sean S. Cunningham. Inspired by the success of Halloween, which I previously ranked on the movies of, Cunningham wanted Friday the 13th to be shocking, visually stunning, and make you jump out of your seat.
Baltic Avenue. I'll buy it.
No one ever lands on Baltic Avenue.
The first film was a major box office hit, so of course a sequel was a no-brainer. They made 2 more films afterwards and dubbed the 4th film The Final Chapter. Yeah, right! Obviously, with the success of the first 4 films, they were going to create more. As Frank Bacuso Sr., former CEO of Paramount Pictures, said, quite simply, the public wanted to see these films, so until they really stopped coming, why not continue to make more? Which, I guess is fair. So I thought let's take a look at each one of these films and see just how good one of the most beloved, iconic, and popular horror franchises really is. And no, I won't be looking at the show, because I don't have it in me to watch that. Let's start the ranking! Friday the 13th. This movie's not great. This movie opens up in 1958, Camp Crystal Lake. The kids are asleep and the counselors are free to engage in disgusting acts during which they're rightfully murdered. Zoom in from the corner. Big bold logo. Crack the glass. Hell yeah. 21 years later, we meet a girl named Annie who's traveling to Camp Crystal Lake. Exposition we know after she told it to a dog. She's able to get a ride from a townsfolk and we meet this fucking schizo, Ralph. I love him. He warns her about the curse of Camp Crystal Lake, and gleefully, like a little boy, he gets on his bike and rides away. We then go into this awkward bit of the movie where there's only really 2 camera angles, a shot of the driver talking, and then a shot of Annie talking. This goes on for seemingly so long, and the guy whose name I can't bother to remember takes such a personality turn when he's talking to Annie to not work at the reopening of the camp, but he says it in a really rude and kind of mean way. We then meet these 3 teenagers who are the archetypes of the types of characters we'll be seeing going forward. The couple, and the third reeling funny guy. This is something we're going to be seeing a lot in these movies, just very kind of like cemented archetypes of characters, and it seems like they were almost afraid to move away from these types of characters, at least in the earlier movies. The 3 are also headed to Camp Crystal Lake to be counselors for the reopening of it. At the camp we meet Alice, who is kind of our main character. You thought it'd be the literal first character that we met and followed for a good beginning of the movie? What? No, you fucking idiot! Obviously it's going to be this girl we meet nearly 15 minutes into the movie! Cause why wouldn't it be? From here on, we start getting these very voyeuristic camera angles of someone seemingly stalking the camp counselors, which is a cool idea, but it would have been better if the movie just wasn't kind of slow and boring. Each of these movies are around an hour and a half long, but somehow, despite its short length, this movie's just really slow and kind of boring. Soon enough, we see Annie get into a jeep with a mysterious stranger who we don't get to see or hear speak at all. The driver takes Annie down a wrong path on purpose and starts to speed up. This is why you don't hitchhike, kids. Annie tries to escape through the forest while getting chased by the stranger, but she's caught and gets her throat slit by the stranger. The girl who you thought would be the main character introduced in the first 7 minutes of the movie gets killed 22 minutes in. A whole lot of nothing happens until they meet this cop who's making sure they aren't smoking weed or something. I don't know. He says he's looking for Ralph, the schizo guy from earlier, but why would Ralph be at Camp Crystal? Oh.
Messenger of God. You're doomed if you stay here.
Bro, what? Okay, he just kind of leaves, Next up, the funny guy is creepily watching 2 of the teenagers from across the lake, follows someone into the cabin, and of course gets murdered. You were right, Beast Boy. They really do get the funny ones first. One of the teenagers tells this guy about a dream she has where she's hiding from a storm and all the rain is blood. This could have been a really cool way to foreshadow Jason coming or have it actually happen in the movie, but of course it doesn't. A whole lot more nothing happens except for one of the counselors dying after having some disgusting premarital unprotected sex. At this point, we're only halfway through the movie. I'm really feeling like Yuji right now after Sukuna inherited his body in Shibuya. Another girl gets killed and who reacts like that to getting axed in the face? Some more nothing happens, and then the girl gets killed, and you wouldn't believe what happens after! Something actually happens! But not really. Alice and this guy named Bill starts investigating the strange happenings going around the camp. They find a bloody axe, and while this is happening, their boss on the way to the camp gets killed too. Alice, for some reason, goes to sleep. Bill is of course murdered and is the first body to be found. An hour and 11 minutes into the movie. Alice runs away to her cabin and actually barricades it, genuinely being one of the smartest slasher protagonists I've ever seen. Wait, but what about the windows? Jesus! Afterwards, we finally meet Mrs. Voorhees, the mother of a boy named Jason who drowned in the lake at the camp in 1957, 1 year before the murders in 58. Mrs. Voorhees was the one who's been killing everyone, her delusions making her believe it's every and any counselor's fault for allowing Jason to drown. Alice fights back against Mrs. Voorhees until Alice eventually decapitates her, and afterwards Alice paddles to the middle of the lake, pretty much the only place she really feels safe, I guess, and sleeps until morning, where she is saved. Or was she?
What?
It was just a dream, I guess. Jason coming out of the lake and pulling her down was initially just meant as a joke until they decided to actually make a sequel and the studio insisted that Jason himself be in it.
So that wasn't very good in my opinion. It moved extremely slowly and was kind of boring, even when stuff was actually happening. It's not even close to being the worst movie in the series, so I think I'll just go ahead and give it a D.
Friday the 13th, Part 2. This one opens up with Alice from the last movie getting killed.
How interesting!
The fool I was for maybe thinking she would be the Laurie Strode of this series, but I guess not. Zoom in from the corner. Big bold letters. Boom! Part 2. Hell yeah. Ralph! Return of the King! He's back! Praise be to Ralph. We're introduced to the archetypes I was talking about from the first movie, the couple and the third wheeling funny guy. Oh my god? Why is this guy so beautiful?
Move over, Ralph. There's 2 perfect people in the world now.
The new camp counselors at a different camp that's I guess still in the lake are gearing up to open up the camp. They're told that Camp Crystal Lake is off limits and Ralph just kind of watches the counselors. No! No, Ralph! No, this can't be! No, my beautiful baby boy!
I failed you, my lord.
This girl is looking for a dog, literally looks at a human's eye height and calls her dog's name again.
Are you stupid?
As a couple of the counselors were going to break the rules and go check out Camp Crystal Lake, they find the supposed remains of that one girl's dog. But of course they don't think it's the girl's dog and even decide to not tell her that it could have been her dog.
Are you stupid?
This cop decides to for some reason chase a figure he saw in the woods and then gets killed.
Are you stupid?
Scott the Beautiful gets caught in a wilderness trap while playing a prank on missing dog girl and no.
It's nothing sacred anymore!
Oh, Jason killed a disabled guy. Good to know he doesn't discriminate. Be like Jason. Don't be ableist. Jason gets a double kill, kills this other girl. Judy and Paul fight against Jason, and we get to see Jason just straight up being an idiot and not intimidating in the slightest. While hiding from Jason, Ginny actually pisses herself. Jason's actually just like kind of pathetic in this movie. Like he stands on a chair to surprise Ginny, but somehow breaks it. And yeah, man, I get it's a chainsaw, but why are you doing that? You're supposed to be scary. What is this? Ginny gets a Jimmy Neutron brain blast and I guess just figures out that she could trick Jason. Like, yeah, it works and is really smart, but how exactly does she know and realize this would work? That Jason was just delusional and insane? Anyways, they defeat Jason and survive, and I guess the funny guy also survived too. He just canonically went around town drinking, I guess.
I respect it.
The dog is revealed to be somehow alive, and then Jason's ugly ass comes bursting through the window. But it was all a dream.
Again.
But we don't exactly know how much of it was a dream, so kind of a shit twist for the ending in my opinion.
Well, that was definitely better than the first one, but not really by much. It was a lot less boring and a lot easier to get through than the first one, so I'll give it that, but I think I'm gonna go ahead and give this one a C tier.
Friday the 13th, Part 3, 3D.
Who the hell actually watches this movie in 3D?
This one opens up with the ending of the last one and revealing Jason is alive after the battle. This one has a bit of a funkier opening than the last two. For once, there's actually something in the background with the opening credits other than just black. The next scene is a shopkeeper and his wife being killed by Jason, which only serves as a, oh, look what happened over there scene. We then immediately move on from that as if it didn't happen, and we meet again the archetypes from the last two movies, but this time we get more pothead action. They find this old creepy guy who shows them an eyeball. It looks like a testicle, so the teenagers in this film, just like the two other films, ignore the warnings and just try to have a fun weekend on the lake. The funny guy of this one and his blind date for the weekend heads to the store, and for literally no reason at all, these three assholes will start, being assholes to our main characters. Like, bro, what is your problem? The funny guy, Shelly, accidentally hits the assholes' bikes, and one of the assholes breaks their car's windows, so Shelly runs over their bikes completely. You know the classic saying.
Mess with the Shelly, you get the car. cut that one out.
In retaliation, the assholes somehow find them at the lake and decide to siphon their gas and burn down their barn. Even the score, they say.
It was already even, you fucking troglodytes.
One of them, for some reason, decides to around in the barn and of course gets killed by Jason, doing the Lord's work. Another one of them gets killed, El Bozo, and then the one I hated the most gets taken out. Jason, I love you. Shelly calls his blind date Vera a bitch just because she told him that they can talk. What the hell, Shelly? Then the main character, Chris, talks about an encounter she survived with Jason, but like, genuinely, how does she survive? I get it's supposed to be a part of her character arc, but like, genuinely, how did she survive that? Did Jason just like give up? There's no clear answer to exactly what happened. Many fans speculate that he raped her, but I find it highly unlikely considering Jason pretty much has the mind of a child in part 2 when her flashback takes place, at least from what I've been told, so I doubt he would have done anything like that, especially since we've never seen nor heard of him doing anything of the such.
I personally feel like her surviving an encounter with Jason could have worked better with a character arc if it was explored more, if she as a character was explored more. And unfortunately, to me, at least, the entire thing just kind of falls short, and I feel like it missed some good potential.
Shelly does go through a bit of his own character arc, believing that he's nothing, so in order to be something, he plays pranks on everyone. Shelly's arc compared to the literal main character's arc is actually done a lot better and shown a lot more throughout the film. I actually enjoy his character. I only wish that we had these arcs and stories played out throughout a longer film, but sadly this is just a slasher film and it's not really allowed to be an action movie with actual characters. Jason finally and very unceremoniously gets his iconic hockey mask, which he unceremoniously kills Shelly for. Glad he had a whole character arc just for it to go nowhere. This circus freak gets killed while doing a handstand, this guy pothead gets electrocuted, and the girl pothead gets impaled by a fireplace poker. The remaining one, investigates the remaining house and eventually finds the corpse of one of the assholes hanging from a tree. Running back into the house, she comes face to face with Jason, and so begins the good old run, chase, fight slasher sequence. She tries to drive away, but she's out of gas due to the assholes from earlier slapping at it all. Eventually, she knocks him unconscious with a shovel and hangs Jason. Victorious, she tries to leave the barn and oh, come on, man! One of the assholes from earlier is somehow alive. Oh, never mind. Chris finally gets Jason with an axe to the head, and the movie ends with her doing exactly what Alice in the first film did and sleeping in a boat on the water. She then sees Jason alive and chasing after her, and afterwards being pulled under the water. It was all a dream, I guess, though. Again! The movie ends with Chris going insane and being taken away to safety, completely ruining the arc she was given. What is wrong with this film?
This one wasn't too bad though. I feel like the characters could have definitely been explored a lot better if they were allowed to be instead of just kind of falling short. This one along with the second one are kind of just forgettable to me and they kind of blend together honestly. But I still enjoyed it for what it was, so I think I'll give it the good old average C tier.
Friday the 13th, the final chapter.
Yeah, right!
This one opens up with clips from the previous 4 films to serve as an all-around recap. This movie truly was supposed to be the final one, but as I mentioned earlier, the demand for these movies were high, so they just kept making more. The logo, the explosion that says the final chapter, I love this intro. Oh great, they brought back the opening credits with nothing to them. Great, thanks guys. After the intro, we see the aftermath of the previous film, with the emergency services cleaning up the mess. We see this necrophilic f***er, who I assume to be a mortuary technician, talking about how cute this one dead girl is.
What is it with the necrophilic people in these slasher films?
These two start to f*** near the dead bodies and get jump scared by an arm. And they overreact like they're fucking cartoon characters.
Jesus Christmas! Holy Jesus goddamn! Holy Jesus jumping Christmas!
You better get that sucker in the icebox! I must be nuts! I mean, I really... Good night, Axel.
Hey, where are you going?
I'll tell you where I'm going! I'm going crazy!
Like, what was that? After the dude starts scooting to a workout video.
You can't make this shit up.
He gets killed, who cares? The girl gets killed, unfortunate, and then we cut to this mother and daughter in the forest on a run. We're introduced to the son in the family, Tommy Jarvis. Tommy is a nerdy kid who likes to play video games and make scary masks. Afterwards, we're introduced to the teens for the slaughter in this one.
Let me save you some time. Horny, drug-slinging, drinking teenagers.
We see this hippie girl get killed by Jason. That's what you get for being a hippie. The teens have rented out the house next door to the Jarvises, so of course Tommy gets to be a creep and watch this girl undress and make out with her boyfriend. Some skitty dipping occurs, car breaks down, and we meet a man named Rob Deere. He starts asking questions about anyone nearby, asking if there's any kids who moved in recently. Tommy and his sister Trish invite the stranger inside. Some awkward dancing ensues, some awkward not dancing ensues, and of course a good slasher film wouldn't be complete without some blatant cheating right in front of your partner. What the hell? How do you get over your boyfriend cheating on you with a girl he literally just met? Well, skinny dipping, getting killed, reacting hilariously, and getting discovered by your guilty and shame-ridden boyfriend before he himself getting killed too, of course. The girl who was causing the rift between the couple instantly moves on to the guy she was originally going to try to get with. Or it could be a different guy. I don't know. The girls are twins. I could not tell them apart. God damn, they didn't even do anything yet. They broke the fucking bed. Big backed f***s. One of the twins dies. It was the good one. This guy who's been getting called a dead f*** the entire movie by his friend ends up...
Well, the jokes write themselves.
And I do mean jokes, plural. He's asking where the corkscrew is and Jason impales his hand with it. So as it turns out, Rob Deere is hunting down Jason, though I'm pretty sure it's unexplained, but Jason killed his sister in one of the previous movies, a character who I genuinely forgot existed until now. This guy gets stabbed in the back of the head, this other guy gets killed in the shower, this girl gets axed in the chest after trying to escape, and Rob and Trish meet up with Tommy and so begins the final act. Trish decides to immediately abandon her brother and check out the neighboring house where all the kids were murdered.
Are you stupid?
Rob unceremoniously gets killed because why would they have an important character with a deep revenge connection to Jason get a meaningful and impactful death?
I miss Halloween.
Who the hell actually cries out, "He's killing me!" while getting killed? Trish decides to, instead of just squeezing past the dead body, endanger herself even more by taking the time to break a window and go through it. Trish and Tommy battle and try to hide from Jason while Trish is trying to get Jason away from Tommy. Tommy shaves his head.
What the hell is wrong with you?
So Tommy read the news clippings about Jason before, and now it actually makes sense why he would know how deranged and delusional Jason is. He makes him believe he's seeing his past self, and Tommy strikes Jason down and kills him. Jason's hand twitches as dead bodies do, and Tommy goes fucking insane on his body. After all is said and done, Trish is concerned about how Tommy was when he killed Jason, setting up a parallel between the two and leaving the final chapter on a cliffhanger.
I think the parallel set up between Tommy and Jason in this film is genuinely really interesting. Jason hides behind masks, as does Tommy, and Tommy exhibited violent behaviors in the end of the movie. And that's something we'll go over in later films, of course, but I think the parallel setup between the two is really good. I like it. Overall, the movie's not great. It's not really bad either, but my biggest complaint with it is that Rob got taken care of too quickly by Jason for his connection with him to mean anything, and I think a revenge plotline against him could have been really cool, honestly, but again, some missed potential there. I'm just gonna go ahead and give this movie another C tier.
Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning.
What kind of title is that? All beginnings are new, that's why they're called beginnings.
This film opens up with Tommy from the previous film walking through the rain to get to Jason's grave. Why? Who cares? It's a slasher film, man. He hides as he hears a couple of guys coming and watches as they dig up his grave. They're hooting and howling like cartoon rednecks as they dig him up.
I hate this.
Of course, Jason resurrects and kills them while Tommy watches in horror. And Tommy has a very strange, almost inappropriate reaction to Jason approaching him to kill him. But it's okay because it was all a dream. This movie pretty much has the same exact title card from the last one, but a little lamer. Like, come on, guys. Tommy's all grown up now and is fucked up mentally from the trauma of nearly getting killed by Jason as a kid. This movie is where they start to explore the dynamic and parallels between Tommy and Jason a bit more, and I like that. Tommy gets taken to a new mental institution to receive help, and in classic quiet and traumatized main character fashion, he's very quiet and traumatized.
You scared of spiders? You scared of rubber spiders? You scared of rubber spiders on strings? Man, you are one scared cat.
Reggie, you jump scared a mentally ill person. Why are you pretending it's his fault? We're shown that Tommy is still into making scary masks, which I'm really glad they kept. It's nice continuity. We then meet some of the other kids at the institution who I genuinely can't really tell what they're there for. Two of the teenagers are literally just like generic movie teenagers, but they're caught f***ing on someone else's property.
Ah, my favorite activity.
We're introduced to that someone else being a redneck mother and her son wanting to get the place shut down. And it's not even because of the teenagers f***ing. I think she just hates mentally ill people. Some of the other kids at the institution, I'm not even sure why they're there. Like, one of them I'm pretty sure is just autistic. His name is Joey and he goes around and bugs these girls, but of course he messes up their laundry and they tell him to piss off. So he goes and bugs this scary looking dude that looks like he'd kill him. So this guy named Vic actually just f***ing murders Joey.
Now, unlike Jason, Vic is actually ableist. He only killed a disabled person.
The cops are told there's no immediate family, and this paramedic named Roy has a bit of a suspicious reaction to seeing Joey's body.
I think you might have known him. Just a hunch.
We're then introduced to some greaser boys fixing up the car, and of course they get killed, but by who, you ask? Unlike the other movies, whenever we see someone unrelated to the main cast get killed and there's no purpose, there's actually purpose this time, because we know Jason's dead, and we're supposed to be wondering who could have possibly killed these greasers. Tommy is shown to be hallucinating Jason and is weirdly ripped, like, god damn bruh, I need your workout routine, please give it to me. Eddie jump scares Tommy, and Tommy fucking WWE over the shoulder down slams him. Speaking of Eddie, I think I figured out why he's here. I believe he's diagnosed with terminal cerebral asshole syndrome.
It's chronic.
We're shown this guy who shows up to the redneck mother and son's home and hopes to earn a meal. Okay. We're then shown Roy being a little weird as the cops clean up the greaser boys' crime scene, and one of the transporters from the beginning of the movie is doing drugs in his car and he and his girl gets killed.
This is why you don't do drugs in your car outside of a diner in the middle of nowhere, kids.
The cops believe that the killer is Jason, even though they say he's been cremated, and the random guy who shows up to the redneck's house gets killed. So, what was the point of him existing in this movie?
What's the point of anything in this movie?
The annoying lovers get killed, thank god, but the way the guy gets killed is really weird. He's killed almost the way you would apply a tourniquet in the wild or something. Jason wouldn't know how to do that. This girl Pam takes Reggie and Tommy so Reggie can see his brother, and Tommy gets into a fight with the redneck's son and of course kicks his ass. He's Tommy motherfucking Jarvis! Tommy runs off and Reggie's brother gets killed along with his girlfriend, and Pam and Reggie return to the house to find that the guy who runs the home, Matt, went out to look for the two teenagers that died earlier, and then the rednecks die. This guy confesses his feelings for this girl, and she makes fun of him. He gets killed, she gets killed. This girl dances. She dies. Reggie finds all their bodies in Tommy's room, so they think it's Tommy, and we finally come face to face with our killer. They find one of the paramedics dead, and then Matt dead, and also Reggie's grandpa who works at the home, who I completely forgot to mention. So all that's left is Pam, Reggie, and of course Tommy, who's currently implied to be the killer. Reggie saves Pam using this fucking thing. Jesus Christ. Pam sword fights the killer with a chainsaw? What? Tommy finally shows up and shows that he's not the killer, and he comes face to face with Jason. I actually like this moment. I've always liked moments like these. They push Jason out of the barn and onto these spikes that were just there for some reason, or it's revealed that it wasn't actually Jason, but a copycat killer, that being Roy, the paramedic from earlier. As it turns out, Joey, who was murdered in the beginning of the film, is actually Roy's son.
What?
Roy kept it hidden that Joey was his son all these years.
What?
Roy used the Jason persona to try and hide the fact that it was him doing all the murders. After we find this out, Tommy murders Pam. It's okay, because it was all a dream. If they do this one more fucking time, I'm gonna lose it, I swear to god. Tommy continues to hallucinate Jason, but stares him down, conquering his trauma, and Jason disappears.
As if!
Tommy actually seemingly inherits the will of Jason and finds the hockey mask in his drawer, and it's implied that he murders Pam.
I really wish I was kidding.
That was one of the worst endings to any movie I've ever seen.
The parallel between Tommy and Jason in this one is explored in a way of Tommy being the next Jason, which I really like. What I don't like is how it's done.
This genuinely could have been one of the best films, but they had to go and f*** it up.
This movie has such great potential. A copycat killer, Tommy turning into his worst nightmare, Tommy coming face to face with that copycat killer. It all could have been so cool, and instead of going at it how any other movie would have, they just made another generic slasher film, and it's really disappointing, and because of that disappointment and incredible lost potential, I think I'm gonna have to give this movie a D.
Friday the 13th, Part 6. Jason Lives.
He's back for real this time, you guys!
This film opens up with the return of Tommy. That is a different man.
They changed actors.
In Part 5, Tommy Jarvis was played by John Shepard, and when they started production for the 6th installment, Shepard was offered to return as Tommy, but ended up declining. I'm not exactly sure why, I haven't been able to find anything on it, but ultimately the role was given to Tom Matthews, who's played in Return of the Living Dead 1 and 2, and even a bunch of Friday the 13th fan films, which is really cool. You can tell he genuinely loves this series. So Tom and his friend from another institution break out of the institution to drive to the cemetery where Jason's body is. But in the last one, they literally said he was cremated.
God damn it, Continuity Keepers, you had one job!
There's also zero mention of Pam, or the possibility that Tommy murdered Pam at the end of the last one.
God damn it, writers, you had one job!
Tommy plans to destroy Jason's body to hopefully stop his hallucinations and finally be free of Jason. They open up the coffin and that is definitely a dead Jason. So instead of burning the body, which he literally went there to do, he first grabs a spike from a fence and starts stabbing him over and over.
Psychopath.
This bike gets struck by lightning and revives Jason. What? Jason kills Tommy's friend and Tommy just drives away.
What a bad friend.
They do a James Bond type intro for this one, and you know what? I f with it. Tommy walks into the police station and the officer's first reaction is to aim his gun at him?
This scene confuses me because Tommy's not even an acorn.
They try to do the whole, oh, no one listened to the main character and they're wrong thing, but they do it in the most annoying way possible.
Darren, we better turn around.
Why?
Because I've seen enough horror movies to know any weirdo wearing a mask is never friendly.
Bro, you deserve to die for that one. Tom and the sheriff's daughter Megan meet, and there's some looking and a bit of flirting between them, because of course there is. Megan and her group are counselors where Camp Crystal Lake used to be.
Are you stupid?
They never learn, man. I swear, they never learn. For some reason, we get to see this paintball game going on nearby, and they all get killed.
What was the point of showing us this?
This is just blatantly filling out the runtime, but if you're gonna do that, at least try and make it relevant to the rest of the movie. The literal only thing the subplot serves is to show how Jason gets his machete.
But why a paintball game?
As Tom is getting escorted back to the institution, he runs back to the graveyard so he can try and prove to the cops that Jason's alive and he killed his friend. But before getting there, the gravekeeper filled back in the grave. The gravekeeper and a random couple in the woods gets killed. Again, why are they showing us this?
I get it's supposed to be Jason making his way back over to Camp Crystal Lake, but it all just feels so disconnected and random.
Jason gets to these two counselors that were f***ing in an RV and were gifted a cool-ass RV crash scene. I love this. This is unironically the best part of the movie. That shot of Jason on top of the RV with the fire and the smoke, ooh, so good. Tommy calls the sheriff's office when the sheriff is out and Megan picks up, so they meet up to enact the plan that Tommy has for Jason. Jason makes it to Camp Crystal Lake, now called Camp Forest Green, and kills one of the counselors. And we see that Megan is determined to help Tommy. Now why? Because she thinks he's hot or something, I don't fucking know. Probably think the where she believes him, but she doesn't really have any reason to believe him other than she thinks he's hot. The two encounter the cops and they have a car chase. This wasn't really necessary, but it was cool, so I don't mind. They still end up getting caught, and even while Tommy has an alibi for the RV murders, the sheriff still has Tommy get locked up. He's stupid and I don't like him.
I will give the movie this though, they nail Jason's design. He looks actually so badass and cool and actually intimidating.
Another one of the counselors is murdered and Tommy and Megan outsmart the deputy in charge of watching them and they escape to get to the camp. Tommy's plan is to drown Jason to return him to his original resting place. Even though I don't think Jason even drowned in the first place and he was just thought to have, but alright. The sheriff and some other cops show up to the camp and find a gruesome scene. The cops get killed and the sheriff finally dies. Thank God, he was really irritating every time he was on screen. Tommy and Megan show up to the camp and Tommy begins to enact his plan. Tommy and Jason duke it out on the lake and it's actually kind of cool. I've always enjoyed in movies whenever there's a fight with fire on water. It's just really cool. Tommy finally drowns Jason and escapes with the help of Megan after she shreds Jason with a boat propeller. So now Jason is dead again and Tommy is able to live a normal life now. Or is he?
Tommy never shows up again.
Yeah, this movie wasn't great.
This movie isn't that good overall. The dialogue is corny and unfunny. There's a lot of filler. It's not really that interesting to watch. But the way it's shot and directed is different from the previous film, so I can give it that. And of course there's the RV crash scene and Jason's design, which are parts of the film I really enjoy. So it's not the best movie, but it's not the worst movie, so I think I'll just give it a C.
Friday the 13th, Part 7. The New Blood.
This movie is bad.
You could tell they were running out of ideas for this one. This one's about a telekinetic girl battling Jason.
This movie sucks.
Also, the new blood? Really? Every blood is new. You're killing new people every time. This film opens up with a narration and a recap of the previous films. Afterwards, we're shown Jason still dead in the lake. We're shown this family that for some reason lives on the lake and this telekinetic girl accidentally murdering her father.
She better get grounded for at least a week for this.
Flashback dream. The girl, Tina, is being brought to this doctor guy so he can help her get over her guilt of killing her father and help her with her powers. So far, Tina's entire character is kind of like girl failure, and I kind of weirdly like her. Tina accuses the doctor of being more interested in her powers than he is in actually helping her, which, you know.
She's right.
So I guess that they lived on Crystal Lake, and I don't know if this doctor guy bought the house or not, but these teenagers in the cabin next door, I think, are trying to throw a surprise birthday party for their friend.
I don't know, man. This movie sucks. I swear I tried to pay attention.
Tina ends up reviving Jason somehow. So even after Jason revives out of the lake, instead of just going into the cabin in the house and killing everyone, he goes into the forest and kills the birthday guy and his girl.
Were they on drugs when they wrote this?
We finally meet the rest of the cast. We meet this guy named Nick, who's supposed to be the main guy alongside Tina. We meet the sci-fi writer guy, this one bitch whose entire character is just being a bitch, and the rest of the gang who I genuinely could not care less about. Tina sees a vision of the birthday guy dying and tries to warn her mom and the doctor about it, but in classic horror movie fashion, they don't believe her. Tina tries to prove it to them by telling the doctor about the spike in the side of the house, but it mysteriously disappears. A couple of random campers get killed after making a Terminator reference. They have nothing to do with the rest of the film. This was just filler. Tina and Nick get a kiss in. Tina does a Batman reference. The doctor continues to gaslight and manipulate Tina, and Tina tells Nick that something's wrong and that the guy who died earlier, his cousin, is dead.
The problem with these movies is they could be really interesting with great plots and characters, but they always just resort to group of teenagers get slaughtered by a psychopathic killer with sex and drugs involved.
This couple gets killed while skinny dipping. It's always a skinny dipping man, I swear. This bitch tries to make Nick jealous even though he literally told her to her face that he does not like her. We're shown that it was the doctor who took the spike out of the wall earlier. The doctor finds the dead bodies in the forest, and this is where I realized the entire movie has this weird bloom effect over it. I'm not sure if it's noticeable through the screen capture, but when you watch the entirety of the movie and you look close, there's this weird, really annoying bloom effect over the entire film. Anyways, the mom finds out that the doctor has been gaslighting and manipulating them. Tina overhears them talking about this and runs away.
Why?
She crashes the car.
I told you. Girl failure.
This girl gives herself a makeover and of course gets killed. Teens have sex, teens don't have sex, teens get killed, teen singular gets killed. Tina and Nick finally find the dead bodies from the beginning of the movie and realize Tina was right. Tina realizes that the doctor removed the spike earlier and finds her father's pistol was for some reason was still there. Tina finds out about Jason and realizes the man in the lake she's been seeing was him. Nick starts looking for everyone while Tina's mom and the doctor look for Tina. The doctor literally gets Tina's mom killed and then Jason kills him with a weed whacker. Where did he get that?
I will say, I really love Jason's design in this one. It's really badass. I think I like it more than the last one, honestly.
That's probably the only good thing I can say about this movie, honestly. There's also this one scene where lightning flashes and he's in the corner, like, that's so awesome. Tina electrocutes Jason in some mud and of course he lives. She runs back to the house and fights him using her telekinesis. The bitch finally gets killed. Tina continues to fight Jason and sets him on fire. Nick and Tina run to the deck as the entire house explodes. Why did the house explode like that? Holy shit. Jason of course survives, and on the deck Tina revives her dad who takes Jason down with him into the lake? What? Why was his body still in the lake? How did she revive him? This movie sucks. And then the movie ends. Oh my god, what was that?
This movie has nothing but problems, man. First of all, why was Tina telekinetic? How was Tina telekinetic? Were all the teenagers renting out this house? Who is this guy's uncle? Is it the doctor or is it somebody else? Did Tina's family still own the house or was it the doctor? How was Tina's dad's body still in the lake? How wasn't it decomposed? How does her reviving her dad to kill Jason help her in her character arc at all? Dude, F tier. No more questions.
Friday the 13th, part 8. Jason takes boat. I mean Manhattan.
70% of this movie doesn't even take place in Manhattan.
This film opens up with an edgy narration about Manhattan, with a montage showing how much of a stinky shithole Manhattan is. Next up, we see this couple enjoying each other's company and telling the story about Jason on a boat on the lake. And they drop anchor, which cuts an electrical line and resurrects Jason.
God damn it!
To give them his thanks, Jason kills them.
How ungrateful.
Afterwards, we meet this girl named Rennie and her teacher in a car, and the teacher gives her a pen.
How nice?
We then meet Rennie's uncle, who's also a teacher. We meet this kid named Sean, whose dad is the captain of the boat they're getting on, and he decides to give his son the honors of piloting the boat. He fucks it up and he leaves. Jason grabs onto one of the ropes hanging off the boat, and then they're off. They're off to Manhattan. Why they took a boat and not a bus? I'll never know. Rennie's uncle doesn't want her on the voyage. Why? I'll never know. Afterwards, we meet this camera guy Wayne and this rock chick who's telling him not to go for one of the other girls on the ship. We then cut back to Rennie and her uncle talking about her fear. What is her fear?
We find out later. Be patient.
The rock chick gets killed by Jason with her own guitar. F***ed up and unfortunate because she was genuinely probably the most interesting character in the entire movie. Rennie sees Jason as a child through her window. Why? We meet this guy named Julius who defeats this other guy in boxing, and these two girls brought cocaine with them on the voyage. Really. Rennie, looking for her dog, finds them doing cocaine and just kind of leaves them alone. They think she told on them, and we find out that her fear is water.
Glad you decided to go on a boat then.
Jason kills this guy in the sauna, and one of the other girls from earlier pushes Rennie off the boat into the water.
That was your plan?
While in the water, she's getting dragged down by Kid Jason.
What?
They save Rennie, and afterwards, Rennie continues to be harassed by Kid Jason, and the blonde girl from earlier tries to seduce the uncle and blackmail him. We're nearly 40 minutes in, and they still haven't reached Manhattan, by the way. It was around this point in the film my friends and I watching it started wondering where the f Manhattan was.
You know, for a
Oh,
movie
shit,
called
Nick.
Jason Takes Manhattan, I'm seeing a lot of boat. And not Manhattan.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, Daniel. Stop worrying about it.
Jason kills the blonde bitch, thank God. Jason kills the captain, and I assume his helmsman or navigator, I don't know. Sean alerts the entire ship and tells everyone to get to the bridge. As he's alerting the Coast Guard, the communications are destroyed by Jason. The group argues about what to do, and Rennie drops the anchors because Sean said to. Her uncle gets mad at her because it makes no sense. You know what? He's right. Genuinely. Why would you drop the anchor in the middle of a storm with a murderer on board? Why not try to get to safety while trying to avoid him or fight him? The blonde girl's friend gets killed while everyone arms themselves and start to hunt Jason down. Wayne accidentally shoots who I presume to be a crew member of the ship and Logan Paul's dead body, and then gets killed by getting thrown into an electrical panel which starts a fire. Jason hits the fire alarm himself, which was an odd decision to say the least. Jason kills this one guy and throws the Julius guy off the boat. Not sure his plan was there. Rennie sees more child Jason as the real Jason attacks her through the window. She fights back and then the power room explodes from the fire. The boat begins to flood with green water. Not sure why it's green, but they begin to evacuate the boat. And by the way, there's another crazy guy I forgot to talk about because he does nothing but be crazy and dies.
My lord, they attempt to recreate you, but they do not know that there can only be one you.
They evacuate the boat, and by the way, we're an hour into the film and they still haven't made it to Manhattan.
Man, a lot of things about this movie don't make sense. And the biggest one is the lack of Manhattan.
Yeah, there's a lot of boat in this movie. Dude, look, there's another, they're going on another boat! Like, they're going on another f***ing boat!
Julius climbs under the lifeboat and they row away and oh my god, is that? It's Manhattan! Oh my god, they finally made it! Jesus fucking Christ!
Maybe not all is lost.
Somehow, Jason followed them to New York. Genuinely how? They start walking around this port and instantly get mugged. Yep, this is definitely New York, alright. The cartoonish muggers take Rennie to drug her up and, have their way with her. This movie definitely takes a turn here, but luckily Jason shows up and kills them.
Be like Jason. Kill this.
Rennie gets away and Jason tracks down Julius and he tries to box him, but he runs out of stamina so fast. It's like, bro, aren't you a trained, undefeated boxer? Anyways, Jason kills him, but I think the funniest part about the scene is how Jason just kind of lets it happen. Jason just wanted to be nice and let him think he had a chance.
Jason's so nice in this one.
Take your best shot.
Hey, to be fair, he did technically tell him to do that. They finally find a cop, and just when they think they're safe, the cop is killed and they hit Jason with a cop car and drive off. Then there's this really terrible sequence of shots. You have to see for yourself. Anyways, the car blows up, and they have this weirdly smooth transition of a flashback between Rennie and her uncle. Like, weird time to have a flashback, but turns out it was her uncle that traumatized her with water. This guy should genuinely be locked up. She saw Jason, I guess, in the lake, and her trauma has been making her hallucinate. Like, huh? Did she hallucinate Jason in the lake in the first place? Was that actually Jason? So, he never really did drown and was just alive down there? This movie sucks ass? Her uncle is killed by Jason, like, damn, not only does Jason kill rapists, but he also kills child traumatizers.
We're supposed to hate this guy?
Sean and Rennie kiss and are interrupted by Jason, who does the Baki apple fritter meme, just like Michael did. They hop on a subway and sit down thinking they're safe.
But they're never safe.
Jason chases them through the subway, and I think the most realistic part about this film is how literally no one cares about the 7-foot hunky beast of a man walking through the subway car. Jason gets electrified on the subway rails, and somehow the other two weren't. They step into Times Square and see that Jason is still chasing them. Jason kicks these punks' jukebox because he's an asshole and scares them with his ugly ass face. I like this. This is funny. They try and get some help from this waitress, and they say a maniac's chasing them, trying to kill them, and she just says, "Welcome to New York." I like that. That's funny! The two escape into the sewers where they find the sewer worker who helps them find their way out. But they're told that toxic waste floods the sewers every night at midnight.
What?
Jason kills the sewer worker and knocks Sean unconscious. Rennie distracts him and chases her, and she dumps a random bucket of toxic waste on him. She literally just happened across this.
This movie just makes so much sense!
She finds Sean and they attempt to make their escape while Jason's grabbing at their feet. But luckily the sewer gets flooded with the toxic waste and it drags Jason away, seemingly killing him. What? Jason for some reason turns into a child and they get out. I'm not even gonna question it, it's fucking stupid. The camera pans off to Times Square while morning for some reason, even though they said it's midnight, and then the movie ends.
What the hell did I just watch?
Man, that sucked.
This movie doesn't make any sense. Like, it barely takes place in Manhattan. Jason doesn't even take Manhattan. He only chases the characters through a small part of it. The only thing I like about this movie is how genuinely funny Jason can be. But for that, I'm not gonna give it an F tier, but I really give it a D tier.
Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday.
Gotta say, I'm not a big fan of movies that just spoil the ending in the title. That'd be like making a movie called Hulk Dies. Well,
this one opens up with an unnecessarily long scene of a girl changing a light bulb. She then tries to take a bath, but the lights go out again, and then Jason shows up, unexplainably revived, I guess. He then chases her to this random clearing where he's then ambushed and killed by a bunch of special ops guys.
well, that's it. Movie's over. We can all go home.
Man, I wish. This guy watching them from afar just says,
I don't think so.
don't think so what? Come on, use your words. This one has a pretty cool title card, and afterwards we're shown Jason's body being brought into a federal morgue. They begin doing an autopsy on him. The coroner picks up his heart, which has this gross black all over it, and starts beating again, all on its own. He starts eating it. I don't want a new life, man. This is, I want to exist. I don't have. What? What is this movie, bro? This is gross. I hate this. Why is he roaring like a lion, man? So now Jason possesses this guy and kills this other coroner full Wolverine style, kills these two security men, and then goes missing. Turns out the guy with the hat from earlier, Duke, is a bounty hunter who helped track him down, and who's now offered $500,000 to track down and kill Jason once and for all. We then transition to this diner where we see Duke talking to this woman named Diana, trying to get information out of her, telling her that Jason's coming for her. Duke gets arrested because he's an asshole. He gives one last warning to Diana, and we finally meet Steven, who's our not Tommy Jarvis.
Tommy was originally supposed to return in this film, but the rights for the series went over to New Line Cinema. But for some reason, the rights to the character of Tommy Jarvis stayed with Paramount.
Steven takes some hitchhikers to Crystal Lake, and they of course get killed. Jason kills this one girl in the most hilarious way. Did you catch that? Jason, is this a kink thing? Jason, shaves this guy.
What a kind soul.
Diana's daughter, Jessica, is holding her own daughter, and she has a new boyfriend, she says. We're then shown Jason's inherited a new body. Diana shoots Jason, but of course he survives because he's Jason. Steven shows up and saves her from being possessed by Jason, but Jason shows off his knife-throwing skills anyways. Steven defeats him, but Diana dies telling Steven to protect Jessica. Diana's husband, I think, shows up and thinks Steven murdered Diana, and we learn that Jessica's baby is actually hers and Steven's. I guess Steven and Jessica broke up before the baby was born, and Steven has this moment where he sees Jessica and his daughter for the first time. It's actually really nice. This other cop is trying to help Steven, and of course Steven gets put in the cell right next to our boy the Duke, where he tells Steven he knows the only way to kill Jason, and Duke breaks Steven's fingers because he's an asshole.
Whose side are you on?
Duke tells Steven that the only way to kill Jason is to destroy his heart, and the only one who could destroy his heart and fully kill him is another Voorhees. Turns out Jason had a sister.
They want to be Halloween so bad.
And of course, his sister was Diana.
They really want to be Halloween so bad.
Now that Diana's dead, the only living Voorhees are Jessica and her baby, leaving Jessica the only remaining person who can actually kill Jason. So either Jason gets to them and is able to be reborn through them, or they kill him and he stays dead. Does this make sense?
No.
Does it matter?
Yeah, kinda.
Well, your opinion doesn't matter, you stupid little bitch!
Hey!
After we learn all that, Steven pulls a Tommy and breaks out, tricking his friend cop, Randy, and is finally able to meet his daughter, and it's actually a really nice moment. The kid of the diner's owner lends Steven his car so he can get to the Voorhees house, where he tries to look for proof so he can convince Jessica about the whole thing. Jessica's new boyfriend is like a TV show host about American crimes or something like that, and he stole Diana's body to try to hide it in the house so he can discover it on live TV so they can improve their ratings. While he's cartoonishly telling a guy on the phone his evil plot, Jason comes bursting through and possesses him, and the cop who was previously possessing just kind of melts. Jessica then cries in the shower.
Real?
Steven saves Jessica from Jason, to her, kidnapping her and killing her boyfriend. He tries to explain to her about everything, but considering the fact that he's wanted for the murder of her mother, is an escaped convict, and just seemingly murdered her boyfriend in front of her, she doesn't believe him. Jessica reports it to her father, and she mentions a Myers place. The cop from earlier, Randy, shows up to where Steven is. They fight a little bit, they have a nice little moment, while Jason intrudes the police station, nearly possessing Jessica in the process. Randy takes Steven back to the station where Steven seemingly kills Jason, but you know, is Jason. The Duke breaks out and Steven and Jessica head to the diner where a bit of a fight breaks out. The guy who lent Steven his car earlier gets killed and Jason intrudes the diner. They fight Jason while the two look for their baby who think is hidden somewhere in the back. Turns out the Duke has their baby at the Voorhees house and Jessica first races there to meet him. The Duke tosses Jessica this knife which for some reason turns into like a big ass badass dagger. Jason goes after Jessica and her baby in Randy's body, and Jason crawls out of the body as a little creepy, gross parasite.
What is this franchise anymore?
Jason crawls up Diana's body's cooch, and since he used the Voorhees body, he is now fully reborn. Duke dies, saving the other three, while Jason and Steven fight. Jessica gets the knife to kill him, and so she does. Jason, well, it's in the title. He gets dragged down into hell, and our heroes walk off into the sunrise, finally having killed Jason once and for all. There's still 3 more movies.
God damn it.
This movie ends with Freddy Krueger grabbing Jason's mask.
What?
New Line Cinema owns the rights to the Nightmare on Elm Street series, and Sean S. Cunningham was wanting to do a Jason and Freddy crossover film for years. So of course, logically, the next film is not Freddy vs. Jason.
What?
This one was actually pretty enjoyable on rewatch.
This movie was really the first in the series to make it feel like it had an actual plot with characters that they explored with emotional beats, but there's still a lot of things that don't make sense, like how the hell did the Duke know any of the shit he was saying? What the hell was up with that blade he had? These are questions I feel like that could have been explored with a longer runtime, but as it stands right now, the movie's still pretty enjoyable, and I think I'm gonna have to give it the first above C tier ranking, that being a good old B tier.
Jason X.
F tier. F tier, actually no way, below F tier, it gets a tier of its own.
This one's supposed to take place after Freddy vs. Jason, which is kind of stupid, but I'm gonna try to take a look at this film for what it is.
Oh, this pain. Pain is all. Pain is everywhere. It won't stop.
This film, is generous to even call it that, opens up with Jason explicitly revived once more, being held at some government facility where he's being cryogenically frozen and it's argued whether or not he should be frozen so he can't hurt anyone, or if he should be studied without being frozen. While this is happening, Jason's already broken out of custody and murders everyone.
Are you even surprised?
This girl, Rowan, leads Jason to the cryo chamber and freezes him, but he somehow stabs her through the chamber, and then they're both locked in the chamber together and they both get frozen. 400 years later, a team of scientist students are studying Earth and they find Jason along with Rowan. By the way, they say that hockey gets outlawed in 2024. Hey guys, if you want to make a movie that takes place in the future, don't say insanely stupid predictions that happens 22 years after the film releases. Anyways, this dude gets his arm chopped off somehow after Jason falls.
You have a really weak body, or was the machete just that sharp?
They reanimate Rowan out of cryo sleep after wondering how big Jason's dick is. Rowan is in shock.
Get over it.
The teacher is hoping to make some money off of Rowan because he's a middle-aged scientist character, so of course he is. The teacher is told about who Jason is and figures out he could actually sell Jason himself. The teacher then has a really uncomfortable and weird sex scene with one of his students. I hate this movie. Jason jolts awake and holy shit!
Is she okay?
The teacher brings Rowan some food and explains to her how Earth is dead and how there's an Earth 2 now. We're formally introduced to some of the cast, one of them being this sergeant guy and the other this robot girl. They find the body of the girl and realizes Jason's loose on the ship. And then he kills this guy in front of his girlfriend, so the sergeant and his crew start to hunt Jason down while the teacher and his kids hide in one of the labs. We see these guys fighting these monsters. Oh my god, what is that? It looks like Doom 3! It's revealed to be a video game and Jason kills them in the game and then kills them in real life. The teacher and the sergeant make a deal to capture Jason so they can sell him and they both get the money from it. Afterwards, they... This movie is so hard to get through. It's incredibly boring, terribly paced, terribly written, terribly directed. Everything about this movie is so terrible. There's nothing that happens in this movie that I genuinely care about. It is terrible. I guess I'll thug it out though. They hunt Jason down, they of course get killed, one by one. They capture him and the sergeant guy tells this one guy to not take his eyes off him. So he immediately takes his eyes off him and then gets gojoed. The sergeant gets impaled twice, but not without getting a hilarious quippy one-liner in there.
It's gonna take more than a poke in the ribs to put down this old dog. Yeah, that ought to do it.
So now the students, this engineer guy, and this pilot are all left without any sort of protection. They steer up to the space station, but the pilot gets killed and they 9/11 the space station.
They knew what they were doing. This movie came out in 2002. They knew what they were doing, man.
They could have taken it out, but I'm glad they didn't. It's funny. So they send out a distress beacon, Jason bursts into the lab they were hiding in, and they all escape except for the teacher who gets killed. Bootleg Andrew Garfield makes out with this robot girl and they somehow find the sergeant still alive, even after being impaled twice. Engineer guy dies, but now without the funniest quip you've ever heard. And then their only way of escape gets destroyed. They try and copy Matrix, because of course they do, because ripping off Doom wasn't enough. Did I mention that, by the way? They literally have a BFG from Doom, and the armor they wear is so obviously inspired by Doom. Such a weird decision to go the Doom armor route and somehow making the armor so embarrassingly ineffective and useless. Anyways, Robot Girl kills Jason and they hail at the sergeant. Someone gets their distress signal, and finally they come up with a plan to escape the ship.
And this was when I realized there were still 15 minutes left of the film. I never felt so distraught in my life.
Jason, of course, gets resurrected because he just happened to be killed on a machine that heals you, and he gets brought back as Uber Jason, and...
oh, you're serious?
They try and fight Uber Jason, and of course fail, with Robot Girl getting incapacitated and one of the guys blowing himself up to save the rest of the group. Jason somehow was holding onto the ship even though he was literally blasted into space, and he punches a hole in the side of the ship. They try and save one of the girls before she gets sucked into space, because this is totally how this would go. She gets graded, but of course not before making such a hilarious quip.
Oh, this sucks on so many levels!
The sergeant gets into an Among Us spacesuit to try and fix something outside so they can get to the rescue ship. While they're doing this, they try and distract Jason with a simulation from earlier, and they distract him with some disgusting, filthy, alcohol-drinking, pot-smoking, premarital sex-having camp counselors! I will say, the way that they're talking, and then it just cuts to him just killing them is probably the most joy I felt of this entire movie, because that was just kind of funny. Wait, actually, I lied. This specific frame... I love this frame. Rowan, Dollar Store Andrew Garfield, and Robot Girl escape while Sergeant Guy sacrifices himself to save them. And then Sergeant Guy sacrifices himself to save them. Again. Jason and Sergeant Guy burn up on Earth 2's atmosphere, and I'm finally f***ing free. Holy shit.
This movie sucked in every possible way that it could have. You know where it's ranked.
Freddy vs. Jason.
Now that we have the definition of bad movie out of the way, we can finally get to the true sequel of Jason Goes to Hell. Kind of.
This film opens up with Freddy Krueger's backstory, and... wow! This movie, I assume, recaps the Nightmare on Elm Street movies, but honestly, I haven't seen any of them. Freddy's been forgotten, which makes him powerless, because it's fear that gives him power and gives him the ability to invade their dreams. So he plans to use Jason to make them remember.
What?
And it was shown this one lady running away from Jason in the woods, who of course kills her, but Jason starts seeing his mom, who pretty much tells him to wake up and come back alive. She tells him to go to Elm Street, but yeah, okay, this is cool and all, but this doesn't exactly explain how he gets out of hell. Turns out it was Freddy pretending to be his mom, and then we're treated to a really cool title card, which is instantly ruined by the music choice. It just doesn't fit, man. We're still some teenagers drinking and smoking, and we meet our main character, Lori, who's sad about getting ghosted by her first love, Will, a few years ago. The power goes out and two of the teens go up to engage in some disgusting premarital intercourse. Jason kills this one asshole in a really funny way, by the way. They all run out of the house, and a cop just happens to drive by, and the cops think it was Freddy. We meet this rookie cop who talks to Lori, and they're trying to keep the kids from knowing about Freddy. But Lori happened to overhear the cops at the house mention his name. Lori walks out of the room she was in and finds this little girl crying, and she has no eyes.
Quit your crying, you don't even have eyes to cry with.
The little girl talks about Freddy and how he's a pedophile and that he's coming back or whatever. And it's here that the movie really starts to show off some of its sauce. We hear the Freddy Krueger song being sung by some girls jump roping, and Laura gets jump scared awake by Freddy. We then jump to one of the kids named Blake, who was at the house being questioned by his dad about if he was drinking or not. What an asshole, his friend was literally just killed. Blake also happened to hear the cops mention Freddy's name, falls asleep, and nearly gets killed by Freddy, though Freddy isn't strong enough to be able to actually do anything to him. He and his dad are killed by Jason right after, and we jump to a mental institution where we meet Will, Laurie's old boyfriend, and his friend Mark. Will overhears the news talking about a murder at Laurie's house, so he ends up breaking out to go see if she's okay. Will says he saw Laurie's father murder her mother and wants to be able to prove it. They learn about Blake's death and about how the cops are saying that it was Blake who killed the asshole in bed and his dad and then killed himself. We meet this other dude named Linderman, who's trying to console Lori, and Lori tells her friends about Freddy, and for some reason the entire hallway goes quiet and just listens to her crying.
Go to class!
Mark freaks out Lori and her friends by telling him about Freddy in a really weird and creepy way, like, bro, what is your problem? Lori and Will finally meet up and Lori passes out. This girl, Kia, sees Freddy in her dream. Will and Mark evade the police and begin investigating Freddy. And Mark realizes that they covered up Freddy so that no one would even be able to learn his name, so that no one would be able to even be afraid of him. But we're like, what about the cops? They know about Freddy, right? What about everyone else who was involved in covering up Freddy? Mark realizes he was a fucking idiot and shouldn't have told Lori about Freddy or anyone else about him.
Oh, really?
Afterwards, we're in this cornfield where this rave is taking place and Linderman is forced to drink.
Linderman, did anyone tell you about peer pressure? You always say yes, loser.
Kia is the stereotypical bitchy friend to Linderman when he's literally just trying to talk to Lori, and Linderman roasts the fuck out of her.
You know what, Kia? I used to think you hated me because you thought I wasn't good enough for Lori. But that's not it. See, you tear me down to make yourself feel better because you really hate yourself, which is kind of pathetic when you actually stop and think about it, assuming, of course, you can think, with all that makeup weighing down your head.
We're shown Freddy's name being spread around the party, and Kia for some reason starts dancing with Linderman after he sees her and Will. Will tells Lori that he's been in a psychiatric hospital, and afterwards Lori's friend gets hunted by Freddy, and in the real world, Jason steals his kill, and then he kills this other guy that was trying to rape her while she was asleep.
Jason's supposed to stop killing rapists, man. I love this guy.
Jason kills this one guy and gets set on fire, setting the rest of the cornfield on fire. He starts murdering a bunch of people at the rave, and our main characters get away. Will tells Lori about how her dad killed her mom, and that her father was the one who had him committed to the mental hospital. She questions her dad about it, and he tells her that he works at the mental hospital. He tries to get her to take some pills, and she gets away from him with Will. They make their way to Mark, since he knows more about Freddy than they do, and Mark is hunted by Freddy. The movie shows off more of its sauce, and as they get there, Mark is killed. Cops argue about what to do about Freddy and Jason, and then the rookie shows up to the main cast to help them out. Laura realizes that Jason died by water and Freddy died by fire, and realizes they can do something with that. Freddy tries to get her in her sleep, and they find out about this drug that they were being forced to take at the mental hospital that suppresses their dreams, which is how the inmates were being killed by Freddy.
I don't know if this means that every cop and adult that knew about Freddy were taking it too, but whatever.
They find these coma patients that took too much of the drug and that Lori's dad was behind it. Freddy possesses the stoner dude and makes him pour all the pills down the drain. The rookie cop is killed by Jason, and Freddy fights against Jason since he wants Jason to stop taking his kills. Freddy tranks Jason and the stoner dude gets gojoed. Finally, over an hour into the film, the actual Freddy vs. Jason part begins. Freddy and Jason duke it out. Jason gets his ass kicked like a cartoon character since Freddy controls dreams, and I guess that Jason is afraid of water?
What?
Jason's never been shown to be afraid of water since he's literally, walked straight into it before.
Maybe it's different since they're in Jason's mind or something, I don't know.
Freddy then turns Jason into his kid self.
Man, I hate it when I get so scared of something I morph into an 11-year-old.
In the real world, the main cast drive Jason to Camp Crystal Lake so they can drown him again. Lori plans to go back to sleep so she can bring Freddy into the real world so they can kill him. We then see some of Jason's alleged backstory because somehow Lori is just in his dream.
What?
Why would Lori be seeing Jason's dream? If it's Freddy's doing, then why would he allow her to see this too? All it really does is help them, not him. Freddy starts drowning Jason in his dream, and Jason jolts awake, causing the van to crash. Freddy turns to Lori, and Lori starts to fight back against Freddy, but Freddy returns the sauce to the movie, and then they're unable to wake Lori for whatever reason, and they make it into one of the cabins at Camp Crystal Lake. It's since shown that it was Freddy who killed Lori's mom.
I'm assuming Freddy was possessing Lori's mom, and her dad killed her to try to get Freddy, or maybe Freddy was possessing Lori's dad, or something. I don't know, man.
In the real world, the cast fights against Jason, and Linderman gets stabbed by a thing sticking out of the wall. Will accidentally drags Lori's hand through some fire, which causes her to wake up, but beforehand, Lori grabs hold of Freddy and brings him into the real world. Now Freddy's on Jason's turf and they fight again. This time, Jason's kicking Freddy's ass. Linderman bleeds out and Kia bullies Freddy. She calls him small dick, and calls Jason big dick, and then Jason kills her.
Bro, she was hyping you up. Why'd you kill her?
Jason and Freddy continue to fight, and Freddy somehow gets an upper hand on him using the environment against him.
Man, there is no timeline where Freddy's little bitch ass should even have the slightest upper hand on Jason in the real world.
Freddy starts losing against Jason because he's an idiot, and their fight gets moved so far away from where they were originally fighting due to some Hanna-Barbera bullshit. Freddy somehow starts winning against Jason again, even though he logically should not be able to, and Lori and Will light the dock on fire where the two are fighting. The two tear each other apart in the not sexy way, and then they get blown into the water by a gas tank exploding. Why was there a gas tank next to the lake?
Quit asking questions, it's never gonna make sense.
Freddy, somehow still alive, walks up to the other two, but then gets impaled by Jason using his own arm before falling back into the water.
Okay, that was actually kind of cool.
Laurie decapitates Freddy, and she looks at Jason as he drowns once more. Jason then rises from the water in either the afterlife or the real world, it's unclear which, but Freddy winks at the camera and then the movie ends.
Freddy vs. Jason isn't a bad film.
To be honest, I actually really do enjoy this film despite its shortcomings. It's not a great film by any means. Hell, this isn't really a good film, but it's a really enjoyable and fun one at that.
This is probably one of the few Friday the 13th movies I would genuinely want to rewatch. I enjoyed it more than Jason Goes to Hell, and the soundtrack is also amazing. Like I said, it's not a great movie, but it's a really fun one at that. And I think for that, I'll probably have to give it an A tier.
Friday the 13th.
We finally come full circle. After only 6 years after Freddy vs. Jason, we got our full reboot of the series, just titled Friday the 13th. Let's finally head into our final film of the series.
This one opens up with a reimagining of the ending of the original film, with this girl presumably being Alice, beheading Jason's mother and Jason witnessing the whole thing. He then finds a locket with a picture of his mother inside of it, and then he begins to have delusions of his mother talking to him. Present day, we're with a group of campers hiking through the woods to find some natural grown weed, and they plan to sell it to make bank. Even though I don't think marijuana is native to New Jersey, but I don't care about that. I'm here to see teenagers get slaughtered. They tell the story of Mrs. Voorhees killing all the counselors and then her death. Alcohol, drugs, sex, they're all killed. Title card.
That took 24 minutes.
Afterwards, we meet this group of teenagers who stop at this gas station, and inside we meet... Oh my god.
Praise be to my glorious demon hunting king.
That's Sam motherfucking Winchester right there, baby! Ooh, he looks good!
He looks the exact same as he does in Supernatural. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying, he's still hot.
He's beautiful. Sorry, in this one, his name is Clay, and, I'm just gonna call him Sam, it's easier. Sam is looking for his sister, who went missing a month prior, the girl from the beginning of this movie, Whitney. This asshole Trent tells Sam to quit yapping about his missing sister so he can pay, even though he's been waiting literally like 5 seconds.
Dean is not gonna like this.
They beef a little bit since Trent is a complete and utter dick, and Caitlin from The Flash, I mean Jenna, apologizes to Sam for Trent. Sam rides off on his motorcycle to continue looking for his sister, and the rest of the group heads off to Crystal Lake. Sam gets stopped by a cop so we can talk to him about Whitney, and he tells him how there's no evidence she went to Crystal Lake.
Okay, so you're telling me that if I were to go down the street to the house where people have been murdered before, and I'm not seen down the street with my car missing too, you wouldn't think to check the house down the street where people have been murdered?
The group shows up to Trent's family cabin, and this guy named Chewie is probably the funniest character in the entire series.
I brought Sweet Lucille. Oh. I think y'all need to meet her.
Lucille? Baby, is that you? Lawrence, you've been cheating on me. No. I saw you with a bowl the other night. No, you... A bowl.
I love him. Sam shows up to this one house to ask the owner if she's seen his sister, and he's told that if anyone goes missing around there, they're probably dead. She says they just want to be left alone from outsiders, and so does he. He asks who he is, and she just walks away.
Thanks.
He shows up to this farm, the guy says he hasn't seen Whitney, and then we come back to the group, and Sam shows up, not knowing it was them, and he formally meets Jenna, who invites him inside. Trent is of course an asshole and tries to act like he could beat him up. Brother, he's like a whole half a foot taller than you. What do you think you could possibly do against Sam motherfucking Winchester? Jenna decides to give Sam some company as he continues to look for his sister, and then we cut back to the farmer from earlier who gets killed by Jason. Jason gets his iconic hockey mask because it was just kind of sitting there, I guess.
These writers are just so creative.
Sam and Jenna find a GPS dropped by one of the dudes from the beginning and shows up to Camp Crystal Lake. While this is happening, we see this couple taking Trent's boat out to go wakeboarding. The dude gets fucking sniped by Jason, and then the girl is also killed. Sam and Jenna continue to search the camp and see Jason walking back to the camp and dumps a decapitated body. We're then shown that in some underground tunnels, Whitney is alive but being held hostage by Jason because she looks like his mother when she was younger. I don't think I have to explain how stupid that is. Jason takes Sam's bag and leaves it in the underground lair next to Whitney, and she realizes that Sam is looking for her. Whitney breaks out but is ultimately caught by Jason and taken back. While this is happening, Sam and Jenna run back to the house to warn everyone about what they saw. Funny guy accidentally breaks Trent's dad's chair, and so he goes into the shed to try to find some tools so he can fix it. They don't call him the Wood Wizard because he masturbates a lot. That's probably exactly why they call him that. Sam calls the police while the funny guy f***s around in the shed for the rest of the movie and lives.
Could you tell I was lying?
So he dies.
I wish my lie was the truth.
This guy Lawrence tries to go out and find Chewie. What a good idea! Trent gets a gun, this other girl gets killed, the cop finally shows up and then instantly gets killed. Jenna and Sam run off into the woods while Trent runs off in a different direction and finds someone in a truck who seems like he's willing to give him a lift in the really stupid and unneeded creepy way, and Jason kills Trent. Finally, Sam and Jenna finally find Whitney in the underground tunnels underneath where Jason lives and frees her just as Jason finds them. Though, as they're escaping, Jenna is sadly killed. Outside, they continue to run away from Jason and they get to where I believe Sam previously met that farmer. Sam fights Jason and almost gets thrown into the machine but is saved by Whitney's gaslighting. You go, queen. They wrap this chain around Jason's neck and throws it into the other end of the machine, and as Jason's getting pulled into it, Whitney stabs him with his machete. Morning comes and we're shown the aftermath of the slaughter. On the lake, Sam pushes Jason into the lake to drown, and it wouldn't be a Friday the 13th movie without a shitty cliffhanger ending.
So that's the final film in the series. At least for now. It's not a terrible movie, but it's not a good one either. It's definitely not a movie I'd ever want to rewatch.
I don't know, I just think the entire Jason thinking Whitney is his mother when she was younger is stupid. Like, yeah, I know he's demented and delusional, but he literally saw her when she was older. I don't like Trent's character at all. I didn't even cheer when he died. I was just tired of him being on screen, like, in general. Like, yeah, he's an asshole, and that's literally his entire purpose for being in this movie, to be an asshole, but he just makes this movie unfun to watch whenever he's in it. This movie just really feels like they tried too hard to be like Rob Zombie's Halloween films, and oh, let's talk about that stupid cliffhanger ending. Man, I know they were planning to make a sequel, but the fact that they never did just makes this ending so much worse.
Overall, I'd probably just go ahead and give it a D. We're finally done looking at all the Friday the 13th movies, and this video took forever to make. Now, between the two series I've ranked so far, Halloween and Friday the 13th, I gotta say, I definitely prefer Halloween over Friday, just probably because I've watched Halloween first, and just overall, as a series, I don't think Friday the 13th is just that good. Like, notice how I didn't give a single movie an S? It's just really unfortunate that I didn't enjoy these movies as I hoped I would. I can definitely see how the series became so popular and iconic. I won't undermine its legacy or relevance today. What do you think though? Which Friday the 13th is your favorite? Tell me down below in the comments. And thank you if you've made it this far in the video. This video took a really long time to make with a script that is 86 pages long. Please be sure to check out my other videos and subscribe if you want to see more. Have a very happy Halloween and I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.